Hey everyone, for this Grim Dawn build video, I am doing, get out of the way, get out of the way. We're doing the Bleeding Blademaster, and this is going to be the first, well technically second because I already did the Albrecht's Aether, or technically third because I did the Albrecht's Aether video and I did the Battle Mage video. So this is going to be the Bleeding Blademaster video. And I intend to go over all of the, like, fun standard builds I've been doing. Like, I want to do the Blademaster, and I want to do the Retaliator, and maybe one or two others. But we're going to start with the Bleeding Blademaster, because he's actually had a very quintessential change to how his character is operating. And that is, in the previous build, because there was no devotion, I was heavily relying on the entire dual blades line of abilities, specifically Whirling Death, which I had at cap, and then it jumped up to, like, I think it was 12 or 13. And then I stopped at Circle of Slaughter, and I was using Circle of Slaughter a lot too. And I'm still using these abilities because of the Bloodborne Sabers, which are great for those two abilities. But now I'm basically taking out all of the points from here and some points from around the build to max out Blade Arc. And the reason I'm maxing out Blade Arc is because you can assign a devotion ability to it. And you can assign you can assign devotion abilities to these, to all of your like passive attack abilities like Whirling Death and Zohan's Technique and all of those. You can actually assign your devotion abilities to all of them. It's weird that you can put it on Summon Nemesis. Or onto, you know, your item abilities. But these abilities, like Zohan's Technique and Whirling Death, all of those abilities are percent usage. And then devotion abilities are percent usage, which means, to me, if you want to really use a devotion ability, you need an ability that is constantly being used. That's what makes the Albrecht's Aether Ray build such a nice devotion build, is you can assign Arcane Bomb to Albrecht's Aether Ray, and Albrecht's Aether Ray is just going to be burning everything just constantly down, so you'll get a lot of Arcane Bombs out of it. Or with that build, you have the Canister Bomb, which you can assign Aether Fire to, which will proc a lot because you'll have like 12 explosions, and each one can proc its own little Aether Fire. Well, in this case, Whirling Death, it wasn't proccing Falcon Swoop a lot. So I ultimately decided to change the build to a Blade Arc build. And it's actually not that different from what it was before. The only difference is now I'm not using, I think it was like, it wasn't Mutilate, Bloodbath, I think it might have been called, was on my left click, and I was sort of using that as my main striking ability, my main attack. But now I'm not anymore. Now I'm using Blade Arc. So that's the core of the build right now, is going in and just Blade Arcing everything, and it deals a lot of damage. And then you'll also get a lot of Falcon Swoops off of it. And Falcon Swoops are just bonus melee damage. And it also gives you kind of a ranged attack as well. And you'll see what happens in the field when we actually do some Blade Arcs to enemies. Okay, so otherwise on the soldier side of things, I have Warcry at 9. And it gets jumped up to 10 because of my belt. And Warcry is just a great ability. Just that 33% reduction to enemy health and the 32% reduction to their damage. It's great for mitigation, and it's great for just hurrying fights along. Field Command is capped out, and I want that for the offensive and defensive ability and bonus armor. Again, it's all about that really helps you get to a sort of threshold where you can crit and protecting you. And I have Military Conditioning maxed out because percent physique and percent health are just all survivability, and that's super helpful. I do have 1-point wonders floating around. Zohan's Technique, more to take advantage of my chest piece, and it's like +3 to Zohan's Technique. Fighting Spirit is just, to me, it's always one of those handy little things that when it activates, it's always nice. And it doesn't necessarily need to have a lot of points in it. And I have 1 point in Veterancy that I'll probably take out and put somewhere else, but I don't really think I have... I mean, I could think of a place to put it, but... I mean, that tiny bit of physique requirement reduction... I mean, I could probably take the point out of there, but... I mean, it's in there for now. On the Nightblade side of things, we do 1 point in Dual Blades, and then points to get over to Whirling Death and Execution. It's all 1 pointers up here for now. Execution is actually on my list to be leveled up, and I'll point out why in a second. But I did fully fill out the Nightblade side of things because I wanted Blade Spirit, and Blade Spirit is really nice for its bleed damage. It's just free bleed damage independent of you. 1 point in Ring of Steel, and I believe Circle of Slaughter's at 11. And Circle of Slaughter is sort of one of our main burst moves, and it's just another great source of bleed damage. No, wait, Circle of Slaughter's at 9. No, 2, 4, 5. It's at 7. Circle of Slaughter is at 7. Because we can get it up to its cap. And I could put a lot of points in it and build it up, but I'm actually going to save that for later, I think. To me, the Ring of Steel ability is really tiny. So, like, Blade Arc is going to be, just swiping everything around us. And this is more just a burst of another swipe. I think it's actually smaller than Blade Arc, ultimately. 1 point each of Shadow Strike's abilities. I don't think I've actually seen an enemy put to sleep by it, but I like the idea that I can put enemies to sleep by pouncing on them. Max out Pneumatic Burst, because it's our main source of sustain. It's our freebie heal, and it gives us a giant chunk of total speed. 1 point into Breath of Blogathian because it makes the heal better. And then max out Anatomy of Murder because we're a bleeding build, and that's just flat bleeding damage, and percent cunning is really nice to have as well. So for Devotion, the capstone ability we're going to go for is an Unknown Soldier for Living Shadow. Now, obviously there are not enough Devotion points to get to that now. So, but the first thing I'm going for, because I have the actual requirements to get into this tree, into this constellation, it's going to be the first thing I go for with this character once more Devotion points become available. So we obviously start with Crossroads in... I went with Ascendant first because we can immediately hop over and gain the Falcon. And the Falcon is physical damage, bleed, cutting, more physical damage, and gives you Falcon Swoop. And Falcon Swoop, it sort of fires out 3 Falcons that explode on their target, and it's just more bleed damage for your character. And then I picked up, after that, the Empty Throne for its defenses. And you could probably go maybe to the Harpy as well. Yeah, I think the Harpy is also a good way to go with that, is for a more offensive ability. And then I threw a point in the Crossroads for Law and grabbed up the Lion. And because I had both Ascendant and Law, I grabbed up Assassin's Blade. And Assassin's Blade is, I think, going to be a go-to for this build, no matter what. Because not only is the ability really great, you can assign the ability to friggin' Warcry, which means Warcry is a huge debuff now, if it procs the Assassin's Blade. And because it basically hits the whole screen, you have a chance to put the Assassin's Mark on the entire screen. And yes, Warcry can crit. So that allows it to actually apply Assassin's Mark. Oh yeah, and Lion is a health and defensive ability, spirit and health, and then total damage. And then Assassin's Blade is offensive ability, pierce damage, pierce and bleed, and then the ability itself. And because I'm using the saber still, I picked up the Blades of Nadan. And this is chance to avoid melee attacks and projectiles. pierce damage, attack speed, armor piercing, and offensive ability. All of this together gets us to our prereqs for the Unknown Soldier. And then after the Unknown Soldier, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. Because I could go into more of the Law Ascendant combos. Which... It's this guy right here could be one. What does this give us? Blades of Wrath. Maybe. I don't think I have an ability I can actually assign that to, really. That would be like a very consistent ability I could throw it on. It's weird that it can go on Blade Spirit. Wait a minute. Can we assign things to pets now? Did they add in... Where's the Chains of Ismail? Okay, no, that doesn't go on a pet at all. Because I was like, wait, did they let us assign things to pets? This goes on Summon Nemesis. Is that the actual summoning of the Nemesis, or... I'm going to have to test that in the pet build. Getting very weirded out by some of the things showing up on Devotion. I actually didn't notice if that was a thing or not. Okay, but anyways, back to picking out maybe potential future abilities. Can't really do Rend. Oh, that would be a thing to go for. Absolutely. So on O'Laren here, Blind Fury I think would be ultimately an ability to go for as well. That just looks like an insane amount of damage it produces, especially given that this character is a bleed damage character. So I'll also point out, if you're using... I don't think there are any good bleeding maces, but the mace here is your general mace ability, and then there are some axes... Where is the Berserker? Berserker. There are some axes that actually might work for the character. Physical, offensive ability, crit damage, bleeding damage. Yeah, percent bleeding damage. I believe I have them in my... I had to look at an item in my inventory to point out what a future item for this build is going to be real quick. Okay, so the Chong-Ri, I'm not using them right now, even though it says I get a huge DPS bonus out of it. Because, specifically because I have the sword devotion constellation going on. But you can easily afford the Eldrick points to get over to using these axes with this build. Or if you're using a Shaman variant of this build and you have the Wendigo Totem with Blood Pact, you might want to go with these. Now in the future, I want to get these going. And this is the reason, part of the reason I switched to Blade Arc, is these Spine Carvers. And I'm assuming they're swords, although they look kind of like daggers. But, I have a pair of these Spine Carvers, and yeah, they're absolutely replacing my Bloodborne Sabers once the next level cap comes out. Okay, so real quick, my gearing, it's pretty much the same as the last video, I just have one major change. We're using Bloodborne Sabers as our weapon, Zolhan's battle plate as our chest, shade leather leggings as our boots, just some crafted up shoulders. That could probably be changed to something different now. Brawler's Gloves, Desecrator Treads, Mask of Delirium, Lapis Lupus, the Carnage set, so you have the left hand and right hand of Carnage. Did I actually put them on the right fingers too? That's funny. The Badge of the Crimson Company for our medal, Warpath Girdle for our belt, and the new thing is the Nemesis Mythic Relic. And I could go back to using Slaughter, and I believe there's one that's called the Blademaster's Talisman that might be nice for this. But for now, I'm using the Nemesis with its Summon Nemesis. That's what this neon blue Manticore is. And now we're going to go in the field. I mean, Darkvale Gate isn't open, So we aren't going to see lots of falcons flying everywhere. But we should, like, we saw one in there, so we should see another one. It's a very obvious, like, meaty chugung that happens when you have the falcon proc. That was that. The kuchung. I'm mostly going to be blade arcing my way through this until we actually get some very discernible falcons. And you're going to see me run away a lot in this too, because remember, this character is not what you would call a tank. But also because enemies bleed to death, you don't actually need to sit there wailing on them. You can always go and hide somewhere while they bleed. Also, I kind of think that they missed an opportunity with this Falcon swoop ability. There's falcons. To have like a very, very high-pitched bird screech happen when they pop. Obnoxious? Yes. Necessary? I tend to think so. I was kind of hoping a falcon would actually proc there. There's a falcon. Very discernible falcon. It's not like the crazy bestest. There was a falcon that just went swooping across the stage. It's not like the best ultimate super devotion ability, but it's still really nice. It's a really nice addition. Now, Assassin's Blade, or Assassin's Mark, that was a good falcon burst right there. Neither of them got it. You can tell it's hit because it has a, there's like a knife. There's like the Warcry's damage thing is like a little red shield above their head, I think. It's a little red indicator. I think it's a shield. The Assassin's Mark is gonna be a purple, a purple like crossed swords over a shield, I think. Sometimes the things get a little difficult to actually see what's what. Okie dokie. That is actually a weapon or an item I really wanted. I'm gonna see if I can't get it and then point it out. Those look, or it's a little red sword. That's Warcry's thing. It's gonna be purple if it's the Assassin's Mark. Double shadow strikes. So maybe it's like, see, it's just really hard to tell because Warcry puts a thingy above the enemy's heads, and Assassin's Mark puts a thingy above the enemy's head. So it's actually one of those like, it's there, trust me, it's working. That was a little hang up. It's funny how, like, I rarely ever come here with this character. Oh, that was a good Falcon. Oh, there's another one. It's great. It's great when the devotion abilities actually demo properly. Yep, that was me. That was me, just like running running away from the enemy, so they bled while I ran. That was me not running from the enemy, just power stacking all of the bleeds and junk. So energy can be an issue with this guy. But so long as you're like, my general rule is, so long as you're taking in more potions than you're drinking, it's generally okay management of a resource. And even then, it's like, you don't actually need to. Even if you're like using maybe a 2-to-1 on it, it's still fine. I mean, ultimately you don't want to be huffing a crap ton of potions, but I mean, it's okay to use them. It's like they're there for a reason. I mean, half of that fight was just me letting him bleed to death. Black Hand of Sarin. Sonar. I think I got that already. Yeah, I definitely have that. So, that was the Bleeding Blademaster, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll keep up doing Grim Dawn videos on top of my Xenoblade Chronicles X playthrough and whatever other things I come up with. Oh, my Nemesis died. I forgot, he's actually kind of squishy, so you can resummon him as you need him. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.